Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Namaskara, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching or listening, and welcome to this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. My guest this week is Amelia Nathan. Amelia and I have known each other for close to 3-ish years, I want to say, and we met each other again through UCO. In this episode, we covered a wide range of topics associated with animals and pets, because Amelia herself is quite the animal lover. And we also sort of speak about the ethics associated with consuming animals and so much more. So there's a wide range of topics that we've covered in this episode, and I'm sure that there's a ton that you'll be able to relate to. So without further ado, I present to you Amelia Nathan on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. Hey Amelia, how's it going?
Hi, Prateek. It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Before we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what some of your likes are, dislikes, future aspirations, anything and everything you're willing to share, as long as you're comfortable sharing.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia. I met Prateek at UCO, and we actually used to be neighbors. That's how we know each other. My likes are animals. My dislikes, I can't really think of anything else like the top of my head right now. And yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you're willing to share. Nothing popped into your head when I said the word dislike or when you heard the word dislike?
The image in my head right now, not when you said it just now, but right now, is like stinky garbage.
I mean, fair.
Like I don't think anyone likes. So
yeah. I mean, even if they did, I mean, first of all, I mean, I don't know what to say. Good for you, maybe not. I don't know, but I guess in one way you could look at it as someone being able to tolerate bad smells, which is not the worst thing. But yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting though if somebody didn't mind smelling garbage. I don't think anybody would like it, but
yeah. Maybe some people grow like a resistance towards it if they're around like stinky smells all the time.
Right.
You know,
right.
like this is weird, but like if I'm around animal poop, I'm not going to be weird about it. So maybe that with garbage, I don't know.
Hey, you never know. Yeah, that might be the case. But yeah, since you've already started mentioning animals, let's start from there. What is your earliest memory of being attached to animals?
Okay, so the earliest memory I would say is the fish that we had, and I was really young. I had to be between 4 to 6 would be where these memories take place. So it's like all the fish that we used to have, because we used to live in a really small place and we couldn't really have large animals. So of course, my dad did the main cleaning and everything, but he definitely involved my siblings and I in that a lot. And we even named the fish, and he taught us to treat them nicely as well. So I was attached to the fish too. And then we had hamsters, and then it just kept going from then on. Yeah.
What kind of fish did y'all have?
So the fish that I'm thinking about, as I said that, were like little silver fish. I have no idea what they're called. But then over time, we had like lily fishes. I think they came in blue and red. And then we had angelfish. We had the feather fishes. I don't know if you know what that is. They kind of like black and white and just look like really flowy. we had those suction fishes. We've really had like a lot of different kinds of fish growing up, because that's kind of most of what we could have, and hamsters as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And were all of these like fishes together in like a big aquarium or something?
Yeah,
like
we had like an aquarium. It was about like this big, if that means anything.
Yeah.
And it was fun decorating the aquarium, getting different colored stones and all of that. We had guppies as well, a lot of guppies. Those were pretty. Yeah, but then fishes don't. A lot of our fishes, at least, didn't last like many years. They lasted a few years, but not that long. And then eventually, once we started getting more and more like other animals like cats, rabbits, it was kind of just too much work to maintain the aquarium, because it's very heavy for my dad to clean everything. So once they all kind of died, we stopped getting fishes. I know I had a koi fish who grew pretty big, and his name was Christopher. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, because we used to have fishes too. Like back when I used to live in the UAE, we had an aquarium. It wasn't as big as your aquarium. And for those of you who are listening to this, we were just gesturing on the size of the aquarium. But yeah, we didn't have a big aquarium, but we had quite a few goldfish. And I don't know if this was according to like Feng Shui or whatever. I think there was like 7 or 8 like the yellowish orange colored goldfishes. And then there was this one black one that had slightly bigger eyes that sort of bulged out of its head.
I know what you're talking about. And those ones have like a black version of it as well, I think. Yeah.
No, this one's the black one. The one that I'm talking about is a black one.
Okay.
So yeah, my parents would buy a set of these, right? And yeah, like your experience too, unfortunately, those wouldn't last as long. I remember this one. This is probably a little graphic for some people, but you know how some of these smaller aquariums have like this oxygen outlet or like this air outlet?
Yeah, where the suction pump is or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this was on the top corner, right? On this aquarium that we had, it was on like the top left corner or something like that. I remember vividly, and I don't know if this fish went there or what happened, but I remember seeing. We couldn't see where this black fish was. And then we look around closely and then we see it was sort of stuck behind the eyes were sort of stuck there. And I was like, is it because of the eyes that are trapped there? But yeah, it was kind of sad. But
yeah, that's pretty graphic.
It is graphic.
Like I knew where the story was going, but I didn't expect like the eyes part.
No, like, I mean, nothing happened to the eyes. It's just
okay.
Yeah. Nothing happened to the eyes, no.
Okay, that was not what I was picturing.
No. For those of you picturing random things, nothing happened to the eyes.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, just sort of like, you know how we get stuck while we're going through something. It's just something like that.
Oh, okay, that's good.
That's
good.
Got stuck.
That's much better.
And yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, after that, after like a few fishes died, we tried bringing different ones. This was again while we were in the UAE. They would die constantly, so then we just stopped. But now we do have an aquarium in our apartment that we have in India. We do have a big aquarium there and like quite a few fishes. And some of them tend to even lay eggs and stuff. So,
oh, wow. Do the eggs survive? Like, do they hatch?
I think one of them did, because my mom was saying that there were some other fishes in the aquarium that would end up eating some of the eggs.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't survive as much. But there was one egg that ended up surviving and turned into like a decent sized fish the last time I saw. So yeah, it's sort of interesting how, all these decorative fish are sort of like, I don't know, like put together. In the sense that in some aquariums you tend to see, and this is very like, I don't know what's taking us in this direction, but so be it. It's sort of a lot of different sort of where was I going with this? Like the Feng Shui stuff and also that the stuff that sort of comes into play. It's very interesting how it sort of makes us take decisions in terms of what fishes to buy and so on. But moving on from
like what
fish,
though?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just curious. Like, what was the Feng Shui about?
I can't remember specifically.
Okay, but
To be
there was
perfectly
something.
honest with you. There was something though.
Yeah.
There was something. Was it feng shui? Was it something? I can't remember specifically. I might even be butchering this, but yeah, it was something. It was something, and sometimes some people would be like, "Oh, if fishes are dying, it's probably because of like what do they call this in English? Damn it, I forget what it's called. But how do you describe when you know?" In our local languages, they probably describe it in the sense of like a bad vision or like
Like bad juju. Kind of.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If you want to call it bad juju,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about, but I'm also like thinking about it in a different language.
Right, yeah, because I can't remember the word. Like,
Yeah,
what is the word for it?
I can't
If
remember.
anybody listening or watching knows this, just comment it down below, say what the word is. But yeah, so I remember people saying that they're dying probably because of that sort of um, bad bad vibes, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
Sort of things that are coming towards the apartment, so they sort of get affected first or something like that. But
Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
again, like this is the memory that I have.
Yeah, no.
Uh, yeah, but who knows? But anyway, you mentioned that you all had a lot of hamsters and things like that. So it looks like your father got you into the habit of like cleaning around them and so on and so forth at a very early age. Um, what was that like? Like, did you ever sort of feel like, because you mentioned earlier that animal poo doesn't necessarily bother you as much, but initially, was it something that you didn't get used to, or were you okay with it from the start?
I mean, don't get me wrong, like they do gross me out. Like I'm like, ew, poop, right? But
Yeah.
it's like I would not be like affected. Like I would still function like just as how I would if it wasn't poop. And I don't really have a memory of being grossed out by any of them. Maybe because we started like small, from hamsters and then rabbits, and like it's so weird that we're discussing like poop like this. But
Yeah.
after that it was rabbits, and the rabbits were kind of kept outside in our garden, so like I would see the poop, but other than washing it down like whatever or like clearing it out, I didn't really have to like handle them with my hands. But for the most part, like it wasn't like wet and gross, so then it like built up. And then the next one was cats, and cats kind of do their business in the litter. So the most I've had to clean would be like ferret poop. And so I guess slowly I just desensitized to being too affected by the smell and how it looks and all that. But I don't remember being like grossed out to the point where I can't handle it, even when I was young.
In your sort of journey of being, I mean, you are an animal lover, right? Is that safe? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your sort of journey of being an animal lover, what will you say are your sort of highlights and lowlights of that sense of being an animal lover? Like, does that sentiment get affected in some way, or is it always positive? Yeah.
I mean, so like you're asking like how, if it's changed me like in good and bad ways, or?
No, I guess the better way of framing that question would be, what are the lowlights and the highlights of being an animal lover?
Okay. Well, the highlight is when you're able to help them, of course. Like my family, both my parents love animals very much, and my grandparents as well. So we grew up, learning to care for them and see them as valuable, like living beings. So being able to rescue, help them, foster them, or like educating other people on how they can, help. And watching these animals grow up happy, healthy, loved, that I think would be like the biggest highlight of it. The lows of it would definitely be when, you can't save everyone, right? And that definitely does take a toll when you're going through it so much, but you don't really have the time to grieve because you have to have that strength to go on and take care of the next one, or the others that you have at the time. So I don't know if that counts as a low, but it definitely makes me feel low, if that makes sense. But, we all do our best. So that's what I try to do.
Gotcha. So not to sort of drum on the lows, but
That's fine.
how do you feel like that affects you psychologically as a person if you've seen so many animals sort of lose their life around you? Not because of you, but around you for any other circumstances or whatever.
It's definitely made me very angry. Like I get angry more, just because I just feel it's so unfair because they're so innocent, and they didn't ask to be in this world where there are buildings and people destroying things, but they seem to be the most affected by it. And it's definitely affected how I've looked at like faith and religion and things like that as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. You sort of mentioned something about how it makes you angry. Is it a combination? Like, is it a concoction of other emotions, or is it usually just anger?
It's like because I love them so much and I feel like they deserve so much better that I can give them, that anyone can give them. But sometimes you see animals that are like, obviously they've been abused, they end up at the shelter, because I've like shadowed vets. I've volunteered at animal shelters. I've worked at a vet clinic. So, sometimes you see animals that clearly are not taken care of, or they've been abused, and that's why they have certain characters and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's a lot of anger that I wish I could find some kind of justice for them, or like a way for them to not go through that, but I can't do anything. So I guess it's mixed with frustration, because there's no one to really blame because the world is like that. The only thing is I try to just feel grateful that there are a lot of people that are making huge differences, starting nonprofits and things like that. But I still get angry a lot about it. Yeah, like sometimes I see videos of animals that are like happy and they make me happy. And then next thing you know, I'm crying and I'm sad because I'm like, what about all the animals that don't get that? And then I get angry. So like the final thing is like me getting angry. But I think that's fine because like the anger kind of fuels me to want to do more, like to work harder so I can get to the point where I can start doing more.
And by more in what sense?
Well, at some point I want to start like some kind of established rehab / shelter for animals, to help all these animals that have just been through bad situations, or honestly, even if it's just like being on the streets is pretty bad situation, I would say, and just help them in a more established way, be able to get some kind of funding, and but I have to establish myself first, save that kind of money and then start something.
If you were to sort of give a shout out to any NGOs out there that are doing this work, wherever it may be, like be it in the United States or back home in Malaysia, just give them a shout out so that people can check them out. I know it's sort of in the middle of everything, but yeah.
No, that's perfect. So there's definitely one called Voice for Paws. So they kind of like, they're a group of people that work together to like foster animals and stuff. And then they have adoption drives on the weekends. And they have an Instagram page where they post about all this as well. There's Malaysian Dogs Deserve Better. They're also, very good people that care about animals very much. These are all in Malaysia, by the way. They respond to people saying like, hey, we've heard like this, this animal is stuck here, or like this animal looks like it's been abandoned in this house, and they try their best to either go if they can, or, post on social media and try to get locals to go to that area. And then there's Malaysian Independent Animal Rescue, which also does the same thing. So these are like the three main ones that are popping up in my head.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. I will sort of, if there's any websites or Instagram pages, like you said, I'll find them and link them below.
Oh yeah, I can send them to you.
We can. Okay, yeah, that works too. Because I think the more we can sort of do and contribute, the better. So
yeah,
no, I totally agree in that. I agree with you in that sentiment. But sort of touching back on like the aspect of religion and faith and how that sort of affected you or your perspective about animals. Is there something specific from religion or faith that has made you feel why things are looked at the way that they are?
Okay, so I don't know how to put this. So I guess with religion, like it's very broad, obviously. Like a lot of people
Right.
can view the same religion differently, preach it differently.
100%.
But my viewing of it was that, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm blaming religion on anything or God or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, people put so much of effort and devotion to worshiping and being faithful to any kind of higher power. And they're taught that the higher power is like all loving, right? That's at least my understanding growing up. I just felt like this higher power is all loving. So when I see all these animals, like, some of them suffer at the hands of human beings, but some of them, like, they're just like born in bad situations, like they're born with diseases that you can't help and they suffer and die. And, they're babies, they're innocent, they didn't do anything. And then some religious preachers will say that, it's because humans sin, so all these bad things is happening. But I'm like, how long do you want to blame it on that? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we sin, so okay, I get that part, so we suffer. But what about all these innocent animals? Like, how can like such an intelligent being, like they are intelligent, they feel things, right? Be created and then just put to suffer it's just how I started to feel like, I'm not going to invest so much time in that area of my life anymore. I'm just going to try to focus on just trying to be good and help people and animals, I guess. Yeah.
No, that's fair. Not to sort of harp on the negative, but I think there is like a conversation to be had there about this, in the sense that, again, for those of you who've read the Bhagavad Gita and have understood it to its fullest, please correct me, but this is just my understanding of it. When I read I have, like, there's a part of it that I still need to finish towards the end, but when I remember reading it, there are sections that talk about how humans that affect animals are sinners in a lot of ways, yes. But there's also another section of it that talks about, like, humans that sin dropping down in their, well, okay, let me add better context to that.
Okay.
So basically, there's this belief that as long as you're progressing in a direction of believing that God is all, and that he's the ultimate savior, or things like that, in your progression towards reaching him in the highest planets, we all tend to do bad things and we all tend to do good things. The more bad you do, the lower you drop down the rungs of the ladder, if you will, of climbing up to the planet of the superior, if you will.
Okay.
But on the lower rungs, it's sort of like the soul embodies animals, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Again,
what is
I might be
that
butchering this
like in Hinduism? Is that? Or?
Yes, this is what I remember reading off of the Bhagavad Gita, in the sense that, or at least that's my interpretation of it. That's how I understood it, in the sense that humans that tend to sin too much are sort of dropped down to levels of being animals, where they don't have as much intellectual control in terms of progressing and things like that. But that was just an interesting thought, in the sense that that's sort of like a sentiment that basically is saying that these animals don't necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for? They're also souls. Animals also have souls in them that tend to travel along the sort of species, if you will, from like species of lower intellectual level to species of higher intellectual level.
That's interesting.
That, again, this is just my interpretation. For those of you out there who think this is all just BS, fair enough. I mean, you can mention how you reciprocate towards this in different channels. But yeah, just that thought in itself is very, very interesting in the sense that how did we reach a point where we're here and a lot of religions sort of propagate the, or at least quite a few religions propagate the intention that killing animals is bad and so on, to now where we are in the world where it's just part of everyday sort of living, be it stray pets on the street or factory farming and so on. So all that is just like sort of interesting. What are your thoughts on that in general?
And
there's a lot to unpack over there.
Yeah, there was a lot. Like what specifically?
Yeah,
like
I guess we could sort of touch on the role that religion might play in sort of the good and the bad that happens to animals.
For sure, because like I said, I'm not like blaming the religion itself for anything. It's just I just feel like people's intentions, like where are they being placed? So for me, like I would look at religion trying to just look at the good things about what is taught in religion and try to practice that, but I don't see it as something that I need to worship as all perfect. Because like seeing all these innocent animals suffer is what makes me feel like then it's not perfect, because they don't deserve that. Like I know I talked to some people at this Buddhist temple, and they educated me because I was very interested in Buddhism for a while, and they told me how there are some teachings in Buddhism and some specific followers that follow the teaching where you can't harm animals because you need to respect them as how you would respect other people as well. So religion can definitely hold a very strong power in encouraging people to treat animals better, as not as low lives or low souls and all that. Yeah, I'm sorry, did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
No, it did. It did. And what I'm going to say next is in no offense to any religions or anything like that, because there are different sections of the religion that I practice, of Hinduism, and even other religions. I'm not going to mention any names specifically, that sort of perform animal sacrifice and things like that.
That's something I'm very against, and it upsets me so much. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to expand on that thought, if you don't mind?
Okay. Well, without it sounding too sensitive, like, there are some religions that, ritualistically sacrifice animals every year, like, and it's not even humane because they believe that this is something God wants them to do. So the animal is fine as they do it, when all science shows that they're not okay. You're not doing this humane at all. And I think the whole act of sacrificing anything that is alive, in the name of love, is not love. It's just so disappointing as human beings in 2021, having the heart to do this to living things that, can feel things. My cousin was actually there for one of this
sacrificial events, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I was trying to find a word. He was actually there for one of it, and they were sacrificing a cow, and all the other cows are there, and they're watching their friends be slaughtered one by one. I'm saying their friends. I know some people are saying, well, they're just animals, but they do have feelings. Like I've seen videos where mother cows like cry when their babies are taken away from them in dairy farms and stuff like that. And he saw the other cow that was like facing this cow like shed a tear. Now, I don't know much about like animals being able to cry out of emotions and things like that, but just hearing that, like, I don't know, it just makes my heart feel so like sad. And these people that are like supporting this kind of sacrifices, even if it wasn't an emotional tear, like I don't know what it was, I feel like it is, right? How can you see that and not feel something and still carry on with this, So, yeah, I'm very against that. I feel like it's so barbaric to be doing today. I think there are better ways to, show your love for God than killing innocent animals, and people try to justify these killings by saying like, no, don't worry, like we use up all this all parts of the animal after that. We don't waste anything. It's not wasteful killing. But from my point of view, I'm seeing everybody with an abundance of, the meat that comes from these animals after that lasts them for days. And they have extras, where the slaughtering happens. It's just, I'm not going to mention anything specifically, but it's just because I've had a very close encounter with these kind of things. So I definitely don't accept the excuses that they give, and I'm very open about just not being okay with that at all. Unacceptable. Yeah.
I agree with you in a lot of ways, but just to play sort of devil's advocate in the sense that, do you think it's just religious motivations, or there's more to it than that?
I can't speak in general, of course, but just from the personal experiences that I've seen, that's definitely just religious, I think. Because religion can make you do some crazy things. I see religion as something that teaches a lot of good, a lot of love.
Yeah.
But some people, like you said, everyone interprets this differently. So sometimes when there's a large group together and somebody has just interpreted it wrong and then preached that, not wrong, but a certain type of interpretation that doesn't necessarily make you do good things a lot out of it. We see these extremist groups and stuff that definitely don't represent their religion, because that's not what the religion teaches. The religion teaches the opposite of what the extremist groups are saying, right? They teach love. So I think it's this slaughtering and stuff is just religiously motivated when they're doing it for religion. I don't think, because everyone has the capacity to be good, I don't think this large of a community is just going around being I want to just slaughter animals for fun. They definitely feel like they're doing it for a good reason, for God. So, yeah.
Fair. And I mean, I totally understand if someone listening to this or watching this is we don't understand the religious pretext. Maybe so, but this is just our opinion, and there's nothing wrong with sharing opinions. And if you have a different opinion, I mean, we're here to listen. So, it's just that sometimes, and this is one of the reasons why that I choose to do this as much as I can, is that we tend to get very guarded about our own opinions that we don't want to even share, or don't want to even share. We sort of tend to attack the other opinion instead of sort of trying to break it down. So if you have a differing opinion, please feel free to share in the comments.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been mentioning that a lot today. But anyway.
I know this is a very controversial topic when it comes to that, because there's also then the talk about the meat industry and the dairy industry, which is essentially almost the same thing, just not in a religious name. So it's definitely just a very large problem. It's very controversial, but I think there's room to improve. I've seen a lot of improvements over the years. So
yeah, I mean, I'll be the first one to say sure, in this discussion I'm probably a bit of a hypocrite because I've been a meat eater all my life, but my gradual goal is to go vegetarian and not consume any meat. But I'm not saying that should give me a card to sort of pass all of that, but it's just sort of a discussion to think about, because I never grew up personally as an animal lover or anything like that, but I feel over time I have built a sense of compassion towards them, and be it pets like cats or dogs and things like that. I never used to be a fan of them before, but now I kind of, even though I don't see myself having a pet in the near future, at least for the time being. I get it. I get the compassion that people have towards them and how it helps people, because there's a lot of people that also seek emotional support from them. Yeah. So there's definitely something to it. It's not just for the sake of having an animal inside of a house, but sort of maybe putting a bit of a cultural spin on it. Do you see pets being brought up differently back home in Malaysia in comparison to America or the United States?
If you're talking about pet specifically, then no. If you have a pet and you love your pet, then trust me, they're treated like babies. And I've seen the love in Malaysia. I've seen the love here definitely a lot. Yeah, but the
reason I
stray
asked,
situation
go
is
ahead.
definitely the stray
Anything?
animal situation is definitely a lot better here in America than it is, I think, in like Southeast Asia in general.
Definitely. The reason I asked that question is because a lot of the times, while I'm not saying that people, I don't know why I feel the need to justify myself, but
Yeah, no.
maybe it's something internal. But anyway, I'm not saying that people don't love their pets, but a lot of the times back home, you see families taking care of dogs or sort of having them as like guard animals for the
Oh,
for their
yeah,
house,
yeah.
for their houses, instead of like, having them as like part of the family, if you
Yeah.
will. And I get it, but at the same time, it sort of makes me wonder, because there's also unfortunate things that happen in that scenario too, where I've heard stories of some people like feeding these dogs poison for some reason and things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate, yeah,
Yeah,
it is
about
sad.
that. Oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
thought you were
go
done.
ahead.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
about that specifically, definitely, I've seen more of those situations back in Malaysia, especially
Mm,
with dogs, just because there's a lot of people that just don't respect and like dogs compared to here. I mean, it happens here as well. Like, I've definitely read stories of it happening like all over the world, but hear a lot of stories of that in Malaysia as well. And I
mm,
actually knew someone who did get a dog, as a guard dog, and it was just very sad because the dog stayed like in like a little kennel thing outside the house, and this is in Malaysia, so it's hot, okay, and um, because they trained the dog to be a guard dog, so it was violent. So the only person that it would listen to is the family member that trained the dog. But it was always barking, and like they wouldn't trust the dog around like other family members, even let alone outsiders. And like, you know, we've seen dogs that are properly cared for that aren't like their sole duty isn't just to guard, and how much love they can give and like to receive, but because they're just trained to be guard dogs, it is very sad. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, because I do see the difference, because over here, like usually when you see a dog, I mean, sure, it's not that dogs don't bark at you, they do,
Hmm.
but they're not necessarily, their intent is not to attack you.
Yeah, they're more
'Cause
comfortable here. um,
Mhm.
yeah, I actually read somewhere online the other day, there was a saying, they're like, if you move to a new area, like see how the stray animals are. If they look comfortable around people, that means the people there are good people, and they're nice to the stray animals there. If the animals seem defensive or like look like they're going to attack you, the people there probably are not very nice to the animals.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was
Interesting.
just something I saw online the other day, so it kind of related
No,
to what you were
but that,
saying.
yeah, no, definitely, because yeah, because a lot of those comparisons can be made in terms of how we treat them, right?
Hmm.
Because um, even back home, unfortunately, even in India, there's a ton of stories I can bring up about when, like, dogs were either trying to chase me down
Hmm.
or me getting bit and so on and so forth. Um, so it's just sort of interesting, the dynamic of how we connect to animals differently,
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
good or for bad. There's however one wants to see it, but we all tend to connect to animals differently,
Hmm.
um, and in any way possible. But hopefully, it's not just about guarding them, and I hope that they get the love that they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. I hope
Yeah,
so too. Of
yeah,
course.
yeah. Speaking of like connection towards animals, like, and you probably touched on this a little bit as we've sort of talked about it, but what connects you to them? Like, what is it for you that just creates this bond for you between the animals that you had as a child, or like pets that you've had as a child, to Scott, correct? The
Yeah,
cat that you
he's
have right
actually
now.
Yeah, he's actually behind me, fast asleep now. Scott.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But like Scott, your cat.
Mhm.
So what is it that connects you to animals in general?
I guess, since young, when I look at them, I just see them as like so innocent, so pure, and all they have in them is just love.
Mm,
Even if it's like I said, like when I see an animal that's being aggressive, definitely had some kind of aggressive, abusive history, or it was astray for so long that it had to be defensive. But we've rehabilitated cats that are like that, who ended up being so loving and cuddly after that, and that's who they are, like at their core, just pure and happy and lots of love, you know to give and receive, just like any human being, I think, wants, that kind of companionship. And so when I see them, I just see them as so just pure, and that they can't protect themselves. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like a motherly thing. Like when I see them, I'm like, they're
mm,
all my babies. So
mm,
yeah, so that's how I see them. Like
mm-hmm.
that's the feeling that and connection that I feel when I see them. It's just they deserve that, and if we have the capacity to give it to them, we should.
Mm, mm. Definitely, definitely. I think, but at the same time, I'd like to say that if you can't take care of pets, then
Yeah.
don't put them through that too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something coming from someone who's never had a pet, but at the same time, I
Yeah.
feel like um, it's sort of important to understand that too,
Yeah. And
because
that's
there is,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that in itself, like what you're saying, is caring for animals
Yeah.
correctly. Like you can love and be compassionate towards animals without having one. I have a lot of friends back home that, their parents are just in that generation where they just didn't want pets. They say pets are dirty or whatever. But these, like my friends, they love animals. Like if they see strays, or, they see their friends' pets. And that doesn't mean that just because they don't, fight to take care of them, they
Mm,
don't love them just as much as I do. But like what you said, it's being responsible, like being able to know whether you can financially and emotionally care for them, is very important if you actually
yeah.
care. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about it, I have had, like, I don't, well, maybe because I haven't had any cats or dogs as pets, I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily associate myself as someone who's been around animals. But we did have a bird in the UAE. My parents had a bird at home. And this is a bit of a diversion, and I
No, it's
apologize.
okay.
But so basically, they bought two birds right from this place, and it was in a cage. And yeah, they were there for quite a while, and it sort of gave my sister some company, if you will, because at that point in time, it was probably close to the time when I moved around or moved to India from the UAE, and same with my mom's mom, who also used to live there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of like a companion for her. And unfortunately, like, one of them died and so on. But one day, like, in the building that we used to live in, um, the guy who ran the supermarket downstairs saw a bird, right, and a bird that looked similar to ours, and he sort of caught it and brought it to us, thinking that it's our bird, but it wasn't. Um, so so we ended up having another bird after one unfortunately died. And
Oh.
this bird would be, it was kind of like the notorious one, because it found a way to get out of the cage, because this cage was built in such a way that there was small, like, sort of
Like a
pull up,
latch.
like a latch, there we go,
Okay.
yeah, that they could open and close, like my parents could open and close when they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
put in some food there or some water there or whatever. So this bird, like, it could fit through that. So this bird would just open it and come out and
Mm-hmm.
start flying around the house. So when I went there to visit, I'd get really, really not worked up. I guess worked up is not the right word, but I'd get really scared. I'd get weirded out to see, like, the bird flying around. And this one time it came and sat on my leg. I was like, what should I do? I mean, I stayed still because I didn't want to, like, fluster it or anything. But at the same time, my mom was like, you know what, we let it be, because while it's inside a house, or inside a cage rather, you're restricting the bird from its actual like motion of being able to fly around. So that's why we don't mind this bird. Like, if it comes out of the cage, it's fine. Let it come out, let it fly, let it do whatever. It's okay.
And he was also a wild bird, so I guess he just really wanted to fly.
No, so I think these birds were like birds sort of nurtured to be taken, like to be had as like in cages and stuff. But this one probably escaped of one of its like its old owner's cage, because it used to look the same as the bird that we had. And they bought it. If I can find a picture, I don't know if I can find this anywhere, but if I do, I'll sort of edit it and put it here and also send it to you.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Yeah, but
that's really funny.
Yeah, it is really funny how this bird sort of escaped from one place and ended up being in our place.
The shop owner actually caught the bird thinking it was yours.
Right.
That's funny.
Right. Yeah, because it was probably like this big. And for those of you who are listening, I'm just making a motion with my hands to sort of gesture on the size. But it's pretty small. It was really small. It's not a big bird. So probably the size of a sparrow, or maybe a little bigger than a sparrow. Anyway, like sort of my mom saying that and things like that. And the other day I was just thinking about it when I was looking at my roommate's pets walk around. Theo's pets walk around, because he's got cats now too. Yeah. So it's just at times you feel like when you're raising them as pets, you might be taking them out of their natural like sort of way of being.
Like birds, you mean?
Birds or cats in general, because our like, and maybe this could turn into the next question I have for you, is in the sense that, are these cats necessarily like, or dogs in general, or any sort of animal, built for us to take care of them inside of our houses?
Yeah, I think so, because I think they're safer inside than outside. When it comes to birds, I definitely don't think that a wild bird needs to be caged. Because birds want to fly, they want to be free. But unfortunately, there's just so many birds that have been bred to be in cages. Like you mentioned, like it was bred to be a pet. So if you let them out in the wild, they're going to be like killed or eaten by a bigger bird, I think. So, at that point, like, what can you do? So that's fine. But if it's like a wild bird, then no. But I think in any other animal, I think they do need to be, like, if they're domesticated animals, I think it's fine to take care of them inside. They're safer inside than they are outside.
Yeah, because I hear people sometimes talk about how it's scary to have cats, or the reason why they don't like cats necessarily is because they like related to tigers or like lions, like imagine them being bigger and like 200 pounds heavier. That thing could like literally eat you up or tear you apart.
That is, I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you see all these pictures of like cute tigers and leopards and you're like, oh, I just want to hold it, but like, no, it'll kill you.
Right.
So we just have the mini version of those.
Right. That have been domesticated to be able to be taken care of at home.
Yeah. Well, for cats, they decided that they wanted to be pets. So, yeah.
Well, why is that? I mean, if you could expand on that, because
cats domesticated themselves. Like humans didn't look at the cat and was like, I want to keep that in the house. The cats just started like getting closer to humans and stuff like that, and using their tactics, releasing their pheromones on us and stuff like that, so that we would get more attracted to them and attached to them. And they're like, free food, warm home. So they domesticated themselves, actually, cats. Yeah.
Interesting. Is there like a timeline of this, of like when it started happening or things like that?
I don't know. I haven't like looked into it to that extent before. Yeah. So I don't know when they domesticated themselves, but they did. Yeah. Like they release how they rub their face on you and stuff like that? I mean, I could be wrong, but this was what I read before. It's like they actually release pheromones here and stuff like that when they're like marking things that belong to them or like marking areas and stuff. So we can't like sense it obviously, but other cats can. And so I don't know if you've seen cats do that where they like to rub their face on you. Well, I guess they also like the scratches on their face now, but they also do that as well. They're like, you're my human. Yeah.
Like, is that sort of like those pheromones a way of guarding their territory or something like that? Or what is it?
I don't know. Like, I used to know what it was called, but I can't remember anymore. It's more like just marking. Like, you know, like how some like male cats would pee, or like any animal actually would pee. This is like a more subtle like thing that they do to kind of just be like, this is my area, you know? So they're making sure their scent and hormones are all over that area. So...
Because you brought up pee, that was going to be my next question. Because I remember like someone saying back home that cats tend to pee to like mark their territory. Is that true, or how much truth is there to that thing?
Yeah, so like male cats usually do that when they're not neutered. So as once they like hit puberty, they'll start peeing everywhere, and it's different. Like it smells. And the way they pee is different from their usual, like, normal actual pee. Like, this is to mark their territory, and they will pee, like, on the walls and stuff like that. So if you neuter the cats, then they won't have that, like, male instinct to go and mark their territories. But if you neuter the cat too late, most of the time they stop. They won't do it anymore. But sometimes it becomes, like, a behavioral thing where they're not doing it to mark their territory anymore, but because, like, in their head they've done that for so long and it's normal. So, like, you have to go through some kind of, like, training to make sure they don't do that anymore. But if they're unneutered, they will definitely do that.
See, I remember like we had this problem in our independent house back home sometimes where a cat would, like, we could smell like cat piss outside of like the area. So yeah, it was just sort of like thought that
the smell is like usually different from the usual. Like it's similar, but like I think maybe because I've smelled it so much, which is weird. There's a difference in the smell, how it smells, and it's a lot stronger and more pungent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you were going to say something? You were going to add something to that?
No, that's all. I was just saying that that's probably why you guys smelled it. It's very strong. Like, there's no way you can't smell it. Like, you can probably smell it like rooms away. Yeah.
True.
So neuter your cats in time. It's beneficial to everyone, including the cats. So.
But do you think this is coming from somebody who's never sort of raised a cat or raised a dog? But is that like neutering cats or neutering any sort of animals? While doing that, are we sort of taking them away from their natural instinct in a way?
No, I don't think so, because like we have control, you know, over these kind of things. It's not like they need to be like on heat and things like that. It's actually much better for them because it reduces their chances of getting cancer. It extends their life. They don't go through this like stressful situations where, you know, they're like, I'm in heat, I need to mate right now. It's stressful for them. Like, they get really stressed out. I don't know if you've ever heard the way that their mating calls are too. Like, they scream. And I've had unneutered like animals, like before I got the chance to neuter them, but they were already in heat. And, you know, they would just like start losing so much fur, like when they start getting stressed out that they don't get to mate, you know. And then the female cats are like stressed out because these male cats are like chasing after them. And like, I'm like the whole situation even looks stressful from the outside, you know. And they seem so much, all my cats seem so much happier and more relaxed neutered. You know, they're healthier, reduces the chances of diseases, like I said, cancer, makes their increases their chances of living longer, reduces the amount of strays out there on the streets, you know, because then it's like the cycle continues where they're just born into like a world of suffering, right? Yeah, a lot of things. So like maybe if you have a pet animal and like you just wanted them to give birth once because, you know, you want your grandchildren, like that's understandable, you know, but like you don't want them to be giving birth so much as well. Like, you've seen animals that have been used for breeding, you know, how horrible the mom animal usually looks, you know. So I think it's a very good thing to spay and neuter your cats. I mean, any animal. In fact, I believe female ferrets, if they're not spayed, and they go into heat and they can't mate, sometimes they get so stressed out that they can die. I believe that was for ferrets. It was for some animals. I'm pretty sure it was for ferrets. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Interesting. No, do you think that there's a school of thought now that you mentioned that? Do you think that there's a school of thought? I mean, excluding the sort of breeding and all of that sort of breeding for profit sort of thing, that we're sort of gradually affecting the proliferation of, say, species, or is that too far-fetched of a thought?
Like, what do you mean? Can you rephrase
Because
that?
you know how species, yeah, sure. So how species are basically meant to make more of themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
Reproduce and so on. That's the word. Should have just used reproduce. Yeah. I don't know why I made it so complicated. Anyway,
No, it's okay.
Do you think that can affect them in the long run as species? I mean, I don't know. It's just a thought that
As in, breeding them or not breeding them?
Or not letting them naturally, not pet animals, but in general, maybe, I guess.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, this is a very broad question, I guess, because on one hand, on a personal opinion, I don't want any of them to go you don't see this type of animal anymore. So breeding them within your family and stuff like that, but not as a breeding thing. Maybe they just give birth once or twice, but you're actually making sure that those babies are going to go be taken care of, they're not just doing that for profit. Then that's fine, I think. Not in large quantities, of course. And everybody's healthy, everyone's happy, taken care of. I think that's okay. But for the most part, you don't really see purebreds and stuff like that out on the streets, or people just taking them in. So that's fine. Like I said, if you want their grandchildren, that's okay. But if you're talking about just the strays and stuff like that, they're kind of all a mix. They're just mutts, you would say, right? So there's not really much of trying to take care of their specific breed in any way by spaying and neutering them on the streets, because they're always going to be around one way or another.
Right.
There's already an abundance of them out in the streets, so I'm not sure if that was what you were asking me.
No, that does answer it, because I was just sort of curious from the perspective of how, evolutionarily speaking, we sort of talk about how we species need to reproduce in order to not go extinct and all that sort of stuff. So us neutering these sort of domesticated animals, how does that affect it? But that was just sort of a thought that popped up from there.
I mean, because if you're taking care of them at home, I mean, usually it's just unless you're my family, right? You probably only have one or two animals, or 3 or 4 maybe. So it's not they're going to be there breeding anyway, whether they're neutered or not. So it's your choice essentially. But some animals are not as affected maybe. But I know cats are. I can say that for cats. So they would definitely be a lot better off if they were neutered, even if they were inside your house all the time.
Fair enough. And to sort of end this section of the conversation on more of a brighter note, how would what would be a message to those out there who are not necessarily, I guess, what's the right word to use? Or what would be a message to people in general about animals? There we go. I guess keeping it simple.
Okay, I've never thought about that, but I would say if you see an animal in need, help them. It doesn't mean you have to take them home. There are a lot of resources out there that you can call, help. You can reach out to people, ask people, do you know who I should call, where I should bring them? Don't just leave them be. Because to animals, when someone cares for them, you are their whole world. The house that they live in, that's their whole world. You can go outside and this and that, but this is everything to them. This is where all their love is. So all animals have that capacity. Just remember that when you're seeing one of them in need, and help if you can.
Mm. Definitely. Like you talking about that reminded me of. Geez, I've been mentioning a lot of stories, and I apologize if I haven't given you the
No, please
space to
don't
do so.
apologize. I like hearing about this. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like you saying that because you saying that actually reminded me of something. Because my uncle back home in India, or one of my uncles rather, he's also very compassionate towards animals. So I remember like quite a few times he would like if there was, I think there was like an injured eagle or something that ended up. So he used to run this hostel, if you will, for like
Okay.
students who used to go to college and things like
Okay.
that. So there was this rooftop where they had built a certain like ceiling to like it
Okay.
was open on the sides, but there was a ceiling on top too.
Okay.
So one day this bird sort of ended up coming there and staying there, and then he noticed it and he sort of took care of it for a few days. Was it an
Oh,
eagle or was it a different kind of bird? I can't, might have been an eagle. Um, but I don't know why. My memory is a little hazy at the moment. But
it was a
I
big
remember him
bird.
taking. It was a big bird. There we
It
go.
was a
Yes, it
big
was a
bird.
big bird. It was a big bird that could fly. So yeah, I remember him taking care of it for a couple of days, and then once it was able to like start like because it wasn't flying comfortably, I guess. But then after he took care of it for a few days, it was able to fly back, and yeah, he let it go.
Oh, that's nice.
And yeah, and I'm mentioning another story of his because it's funny how some of these stories that just tend to pop up when you're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and maybe because I'm coming up with so many stories of my own, I'm probably gonna ask you one to like
Yeah,
share
I
a
actually
story.
thought of
So
one as well. Like now, as you were
go
saying
for
that,
it.
I actually thought, no, go for yours first. You were about to tell me another story. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Thank you. But yeah, this is
before you
about
forget.
yeah. So this is actually like in that building that he ran. He had like another house that he had rented out for that, and in that area itself, there was like a stray dog,
Mm.
and the stray dog would come by to that area, and like he would feed the dog and so on. And to a point, he would feed it so much that it got a little heavy as a dog. But this dog it sort of understood. It knew that there was a lot of um, girls that lived there because it was like it was a girls' hostel.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't bark at any girls or anything like that, but it would sort of bark at like suspicious people and so
Okay.
on. Even though it was a stray dog, like it's not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
like a dog that he took into his house or anything like that.
Yeah.
But whenever it would come by and sit there, he would sort of feed it and so on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just reminded me of that, of like how when you show them a level of compassion that um,
You
they
become
very
everything to them.
right, they
Yeah.
connect to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you were gonna share a story.
Yeah, mine wasn't about the connecting part, but it was just about like stopping and helping. I saw this video once
Mhm.
of this people. I think it was in the US, probably because it was snowing, and they sounded like they're from the US, so maybe Canada. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I was rambling.
No, it's okay.
But I saw this video where they saw a kitten like in the snow, and it was frozen. And they still
Oh,
stopped to take that kitten just to see if like it actually survived.
excuse
Like
me.
who would have even like if you see a dead animal, like you wouldn't think, and it was frozen. They actually went, took it by the fireplace, they heated it up and everything, and it was a whole process. And the cat survived, like it was alive.
Oh wow.
So like if you just put in that little bit of extra effort, like once and forever, like how much of like does it take for you to just try to warm this thing up, and things like that. And the baby survived, like the cat survived.
Mm.
um
Mhm.
so just you never know like how much you can help like one whole life if you just stopped and
Mhm.
tried.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that is crazy. Like the fact they were able to like
Mm-hmm.
revive it and bring it back.
Yeah.
Because I think all those sort of things are like a very borderline thing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
a little too more, or if it was exposed in the cold for a little longer,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't have been able to like help out. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, and it's a lesson for me, like personally as well. In general, like to be compassionate towards them, because um, like I said, I wasn't like I'm not comfortable around animals usually,
Yeah, and
but
that's okay.
yeah, but now I've gradually sort of
Mm-hmm.
learned to be
Yeah.
comfortable. I'm not there all the way, but
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Yeah. And you met
Because
Scott and he liked you. So
Yeah.
that's a good sign, when an
Right.
animal's good
Right.
to you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, are there any sort of like stories of like pets that you've had that just sort of attests to the fact that there is a deeper connection that humans can share with these little beings, like from
uh,
personal experience?
I mean, all my animals have like definitely shown how much they like look up to you and love you for sure. Like my dog, he was like a baby brother to us, and he looked at us also like his siblings, like he will protect us no matter what. But we didn't train him to be a guard dog. My dad used to carry him and sing him a lullaby, and every time you hum that lullaby, he will get sleepy. So they're really just like us. And there was one cat with my dad that whenever he left work, the cat will be so sad. Like he won't eat, he won't anything. But the moment my dad came home from work, he would just be so happy. Like his whole mood would change. And that's happened with my pets as well, like towards me, towards my family members, and like just friends and stuff, all have similar stories like that. So they will see you as family as well. Like as long as you treat them with that love and respect that you expect to be treated, with by any of your family members. Yeah.
Fair. But I mean, maybe this is hard for you, but is there any one story that connect like that you will never forget? I mean, I understand it's probably hard for you because you've sort of been around animals for
A
almost all your
lot.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like, I mean, images are popping in my head, but that was like, I would say like it's the same for all of them. Like they definitely have given me that face, that look, that trust in me. And I know that they feel the same kind of connection that I'm feeling towards them. So yeah, like, even the ones that didn't end up staying with me long, like some of the kittens that I tried to foster and take care of. One of them just couldn't make it. Like we tried our best, and as he was dying, like I was crying and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I've never brought an animal to be put down, and I didn't put him down. But I was like, what do I do? I'm trying so hard, but he's just gotten so bad. And I could see him kind of struggling at first, but the moment I looked at him and I just talked to him, he looked back at me and he calmed down, in his last moments, and for a while, like quite a while. So, they understand you. Like it's something you can't really explain. It's an experience that you have to share with them to really understand how deep it is.
That is
Sorry.
really
I
beautiful.
wish I could have given you like a better explanation.
No, you're good. It's okay. It's okay. But I think you've sort of succinctly put it, and like you've tied a bow on it in the sense that, they understand you in some weird way, be it the energy of human beings in general. Because there's also that saying, right, that like animals can suss you out. Like if you are afraid towards them, then, they're also going to
I've
like
seen
be
that.
defensive.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that, like, because I've like kind of volunteered at all these like pop-up adoption drives and things like that. The animals would be like so loving and kind, like to all of us there, or people that come to see them, and then suddenly like the dog would just start barking at like a random couple that comes, and we're like, we know what's going on. Maybe it had a
Right.
bad experience or it just felt some kind of bad energy. So yeah.
Yeah.
They understand. They really understand, and they remember. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a beautiful way to sort of close this part of the podcast. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you did.
Thank you. I
We're
love
gonna
this
transition.
conversation. Your story was so funny. I'm still thinking about the bird. I think you told me about that story before, but like I forgot most of it. So it's just, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's just that sometimes conversations like this bring out the stories that you have like sort of saved in your memory bank.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just fun talking about them and sort of relating to them in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, We're going to transition into the word association game, Bish, Bash, Bosh. You've probably seen videos of it, but basically I'll give you one word and you'd have to respond to that in 3 words or in 3 phrases. So for example, if I was to say animals, what are the 3 things that come to your mind? That sort of thing. Animals is not the word, but does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So the first word is difference.
Give me 1 second.
What comes to your mind when that? Oh yeah,
Give me 1
no
second.
worries. Yeah.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you too. I was just making sure.
Okay.
My AirPods.
Yeah, cool. No worries. The first word is differences. What comes to your mind when I say the word differences?
Strength, love, and like connected to love, I guess. Embrace. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. What are the 3 things that come to your mind when I say the word nuance?
Okay. Nuance is like it's like same but different. Like the slight variations to something. Is that do I have the right meaning to it?
Basically it's sort of like there is gray. It's not as like two-sided as we might think it is.
Okay.
That's sort of like the generalistic way of putting it, if that makes sense.
Okay, I don't know if this is like related, but the first thing that came to my mind was hair products.
Okay. No, hey, that makes a lot of sense. A singular hair product doesn't work for everybody. So we all have a different hair. So hey, makes sense.
Yeah,
totally.
like the effects of it, I guess. I don't know. And the veil. I know it's so weird, but
the what?
The veil, like the in between.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. Yeah. Cool. Not words that you'd expect to hear, but hey, that's what makes us different.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Nothing else is popping up in my head right now.
No, it's okay. It's all good.
3 words.
The third
it's
word.
It's not really like a word I use in my like vocab, I guess. So I don't really think about. Yeah.
That's all good. That's fair. The third word is learning. What comes to your mind when I say the word learning?
Opportunity. Opportunity, definitely. Discovery. Third word. Aspects. Like there are different types and aspects to learning. Yeah,
definitely. The fourth word is empathy. What comes to your mind when I say the word empathy?
Capacity. Love, again. And trauma. Like vicarious trauma, you know? Yeah.
And for the last word for this segment, similarities. What comes to your mind when I say that word?
Strength, again. I think I said that for differences also. I don't know.
That's okay.
Learning, which I guess because you just said that word, I don't know. But I feel like you can learn from similarities, you know, like other people's experiences and stuff. And values.
Definitely. Cool. Well, thank you so much for playing along in that segment. Just a couple more questions now. We've spoken so much about animals, but this question is, how do you relate to people?
To people? Like in what sense?
It could be in any literal sense, however you would, however you'd like to answer it based off of how you heard it.
I guess when they share the same values, I can definitely relate to them much stronger because we would have more to talk about, more to discuss, you know.
Gotcha. That's fair. Yeah, I leave that open to interpretation because we all relate to people differently. So
yeah, I think it would be values definitely, because that would also kind of be like a bar to be like, am I going to get along with this person? You know. So, yeah.
Gotcha. That's fair. And for the last question, that's not really a question, more like a request, if you will. If you were to leave us with a positive thought or a positive quote or anything you'd want to share, feel free to share. So the floor is yours.
Okay. The first message that came to my mind, I guess, was if you're going through a hard time now, and I guess this is a bit personal too, but if you're going through a hard time and you feel like you're not doing much or you haven't achieved much, just stop for a second and just look back at all your little achievements to this point and see how far you've come. Like, you don't have to look even so far back to 5-6 years. Just look to a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. Like, where were you and how much you've learned to this point? Even the smallest things matter because that's gonna shape who you become, the best version of yourself. So appreciate yourself.
Definitely. That's a beautiful way to close this off. Thank you so much, Amelia, for joining me.
Thank you.
I'm sorry if this turned into too much of me sharing my stories, but
no.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I cut you off again. You were saying something?
No, I think I was just talking over you, which was my bad. I was just saying, no, you don't have to apologize for sharing your stories. I would love to hear all that.
Oh, I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to them. And I appreciate you all for listening to this episode and checking it out too. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. Make sure to follow Amelia on her social media accounts and mention something in the comment section below that you found interesting, intriguing, or relatable. Make sure to also check the description box below for other sources of information and content that we've talked about today. Make sure to like this video, share it around, and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to never miss another episode. If you've made it this far, thank you once again. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this episode and listen to some opinions that we have to share. And feel free to share yours in the comments as I mentioned earlier. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and don't forget to keep your mind open to different perspectives. Because you never know, random relatability might just be around the corner.